Hey everybody, this is Swazzle from True Chicago Sports Fans. How is that Last Dance hangover? That bad, huh? Well, I got a treat for you. I got Nicholi Wozniak, son of John Michael Wozniak, the shoulder shrugging, quarter flipping security guard for Michael Jordan. I was able to talk to Nicholi about his interpretation of The Last Dance, his relationship with Michael Jordan, and some personal stories. Stay tuned. How's it
Hello, sir.
going?
I'm okay. I'm sorry. Between kids and then work calls going over, it was hard to get to you on time. So doing well.
No worries, no worries. I totally understand. Just wanted to catch up with you, see what you think of the finale.
Yeah, it's bittersweet. Obviously, you don't want it to be over. You still have that same feeling you had as a Chicago fan when you feel like, well, we could have won like two more. Why did they break the team up? But growing up, hearing my dad come home and tell his stories, like it wasn't new news that like Krause was doing what he was doing and all that. Like we knew even stories on the bus of the players fighting with him, like all that stuff was that came out. We kind of knew and were told just to be quiet about it, but now it's out. So,
So just talking about the Last Dance, as far as you have a 10-part series, and it leaves
yes.
us wanting more. What is something that you think that they could have added to that episodes?
Oh man, there's a lot. Well, personally, the first thing that comes to mind, my father, Gus Slett, got some time, but the third guy that really deserved some time was Clarence Travis.
Mm-hmm.
He was like the spirit of the team. Like he was always a jokester. He was a great guy. He's a grandfather. He's actually my godfather.
Mm-hmm.
So that, as a Catholic, he was my godfather. Good name. My middle name's Travis after him.
Wow.
So yeah. So I wish he got a little more time because he was he was the funniest guy I ever met in real life. Like, and just a good person to be around. He felt like a grandfather. He was just a good man and always ripping on my dad and giving my dad and Gus a hard time. He was the one that kept everything fun. He was probably the most fun of all of them, to be honest with you, and was always cracking a joke or like making things not so serious, whereas Gus was extremely serious. My dad was kind of learning from them both. You could see he was a little younger, and then you had Clarence Travis, who was just constantly, like, he was the life of the party. He was the person hosting everybody at his house and cooking, and his wife was the sweetest lady. My godmother, I mean, so sweet. So I wish we'd have got a little more time. I wish they would have spent more time just kind of showing. I think it was important them showing Michael's, the grind, like, and I think spending a little more time, even with baseball. Terry Francona was quoted as saying, like, if Michael had more time, he would have made it. So would have liked to see more of that, his life on the road, because that kind of, I don't say humbled him, but it like that time he spent with the players helped him remember what it felt like just to be one of the guys, and that rejuvenated him, I think, in some ways. So yeah, that's my humble opinion.
Yeah. What is your opinion on the Jordan's one of the last comments in the last episode? He's saying, "I wish we could have stayed together. We would have all signed for one more year."
Yeah.
He said he thought that he could have got everybody signed.
I think he would. If it, financially, that would. I don't know what the numbers were. I remember back then Michael was making like $30 million a year.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of money in the 90s.
Yes.
That's a lot of money at any time, but to have a 1 year, so maybe he would have had to have taken a hometown discount to make it work, but I'm sure he would have, because it's just a bad feeling I can imagine, to be winning and then it's like being the number one salesperson, you get fired, or you're told to you get let go. It's like, this makes no sense.
Yeah, we don't care how much you sell. You're just not coming back.
You're just not coming back. Yeah, it's like,
what am I doing?
Yeah, right. So, but that was pretty amazing for them to overcome that adversity together and still make it. So, I think it was that's unsettling. It's just as a Chicago sports fan, right? Like, still unsettling thinking of Michael in a Wizards jersey. Like, it's just I
don't think that ever happened.
You can never live with that. Yeah, it's like.
Yeah, just speaking on the numbers, I think the Bulls had about 14 million available to sign Pippen, and Pippen wanted a $25 million contract, and then I don't know if Jordan would have taken that much of a cut.
Yeah, I don't know. I just know maybe would you never know. Yeah. But like the fact that
we'll never know is a problem.
Yeah, and it just would have it would have been nice to have the Bulls in those conversations with the Celtics and the Lakers, like 11 championships, and things like that. But then again, I think like the Bulls front office, they messed themselves up so bad. I don't think they'll ever come back from it'll be like Babe Ruth in Boston. You know what I mean? It'll be 100 years before the Bulls win again.
Yeah. That's what it seems like right now.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to pick a second team.
Yeah. Everyone's hoping the Bears can play. Or pick up another. Yeah. It's unfortunate.
Is there a player from either the first three-peat or the second three-peat that you think that maybe they could have interviewed him or maybe give him a little more screen to him?
Sure. Yeah, for sure. And the second one, Tony Kukoc. I think Tony Kukoc had more value than what he was presented. They should have got Kukoc. Luke Longley. I know Michael and Luke Longley were not like best of friends.
So they're not on speaking terms at all.
Yeah, it'd have been interesting to hear Luke Longley's.
I believe it denied the request to be on.
Did he? Yeah. See, he was probably just like, forget, but he won him some championships. So I definitely think Tony Kukoc, because he was very instrumental to that second, three-peat. On the first one, I would have thought they got Bill Cartwright. I'd have thought more. They got BJ. I think they did right on that first three-peat. I just think on that second three-peat, getting more Tony Kukoc would have made more sense.
Yeah, I agree. The waiter was such an instrumental part to complementing Pippen and Jordan that, he picked up all the slack that they left over.
Well, he was supposed to be like the great. He helped open the international doors too, because he was supposed to be one of the greatest players out of Europe. So that I thought that would have been cool to see. Who would have been? I think he wasn't that. I don't know what his terms or relationship was, but remember the first three-peat, the guy Craig Hodges.
Oh, Craig Hodges, yeah, he won the 3-point contest a couple of years.
I think Craig Hodges might have made some sense to speak to. But they got everybody. I think that if I'm reaching for somebody in that first half, maybe Craig Hodges.
I'm thinking maybe even Randy Brown.
Yeah, Randy Brown, the second one, might have made some sense. I was surprised how much time Scott Burrell got too. I know because Michael's always ripping on Burrell. I'm like, man, that guy got a lot of time. But it helped remind me when I get in my arguments with people on Facebook or people I know when they say LeBron, is better than Michael, and Michael had better teams than LeBron. I start naming people like Randy Brown, Rusty LaRue. Judd Bushler. I'm like, really? You look at LeBron's worst players was Michael Beasley, who was the second draft pick. I'm like, come on, like, stop.
Yeah, it's ridiculous when they start comparing, and it's been all over ESPN all morning, and who's the better this and that. They're completely different players.
They are actually. They should be comparing Michael to, or they should be comparing LeBron to Magic Johnson or Oscar Robertson or like LeBron's a power forward that can play point guard. Right. And he's a facilitator. I always said he's a souped up Scottie Pippen.
Yeah, and I agree with you with that. Scottie Pippen was way ahead of his time with his skill set that, if you drop him in today, he's going to be very successful.
You drop him in today, Scotty was, I don't know, name him, just a tall guard, so I don't understand the, I get tired of it because it's like it's two different products. You know what I mean? It's like,
that's Pepsi and Coke. Is you're gonna pick your flavor.
Yeah, it's like, it's not just no contest.
So now that you've seen the whole thing, and once your dad was on screen and got his little 15 minutes of fame, how did that change for you? Like how much like I guess notoriety are you getting from everyone just reaching out for you and wanting to know more about your dad?
Yeah, it's insane. Actually, it's been a lot. Just like a lot of requests for conversations. I actually got in touch with Esty, his Mr. Jordan's business manager, and I was like, "Hey, I just want your blessing before I." It's my dad, always told us never talk, but I wanted to have the opportunity to speak about my dad because he deserved it. The guy, he was a hardworking Chicago police officer, father, and didn't brag about himself, but did some great things I learned about during the end of his life, and especially his funeral, meeting a lot of his friends from back in his old neighborhood, and it just selfishly felt good for me to be able to talk about my dad and not have to be myself, be out in like media or whatever. So it was an honor to talk about him. It's unbelievable how many people have like friended me and just said, "Hey, I lost my father, I lost my mother. They were Bulls fans." I try to respond to every single person just because this is gonna fade, and I'm looking forward to it in some ways. Just to kind of, okay, we're done. I'm not doing any of this for any revenue, so it's more like I just I want it to be through in some respect, and still give Michael his it's about Michael, and then but seeing my dad, being able to speak about him and his legacy and his life has been a great honor. And anybody that is touched or enjoyed my dad at this time during COVID and various things going on, I'm happy he could still be a blessing to people like he was during his life.
Right. Now, I know they showed Kobe a little bit. I was hoping that Michael might have talked a little bit more about him being a big brother to Kobe, because Kobe said that Michael was his big brother and he would call him.
Yeah.
I thought they could have touched a little bit more on his relationship with the different players outside of the Bulls.
Yeah. Yeah, I do, especially in the second three-peat. I think they did a good job. I mean, they were very limited, like the time, like if they had, I know Jason Ayer talked about this on various shows, like if he could have done another like 15 episodes, I think he would have been able to fit all that in. But I do think they touched on Kobe coming up and how he was viewed by Michael. I think that was cool how they did that. I would have liked to seen like I thought it was interesting, the whole fight between Isaiah and Michael. I think people don't understand how personal Isaiah Thomas would take it. Like, I heard he'd come back home from being from Chicago and all his family's wearing Jordan jerseys, So that would have been cool to talk about more. But no, especially with Kobe. Maybe, you never know, maybe they're saving the Kobe stuff for when they do Kobe's documentary.
So just give me a quick story about anything crazy about your dad and Michael Jordan. I know you got to spend some time with the Jordan family. They recently their kids have been on the TV and asking, giving out personal stories as well. Do you have any stories between yourself and Michael and the family that you can share?
Yeah, there were joking times. There were times when we would just go hang out where, like my dad, like for example, when they'd open the gates up for trick-or-treating during Halloween, we would go there while my dad would be working the gate with some of the security guards, because you had lines and lines of people just coming to get a piece of candy and see Michael Jordan. So we'd be upstairs playing, or we would be trick-or-treating, and then we'd come back to the house and we'd see all these people, and we'd just be playing up in their playroom. They had like an indoor basketball playroom, and we would just hang out. I've told people this before. I kind of took it for granted because it was just, since I grew up being a part with my dad being a security guard. He'd bring me to the day games, because remember they said day games, right? Like noon,
the NBC games, right?
Yes. So he would take me during the day with him on a Saturday, and I would just hang out in the lot. And if it was too cold, he'd put me in somebody's car, and I would just hang out until the starting lineup. Then he'd say, "All right, let's go." And then he'd bring me on the floor during the starting lineup. Back in the old stadium when they had like the spotlight and they had that bull, the light bulb bull on the, and now I just remember being scared. Like literally, I remember like crying one time when I was like 5, 6, like because it was so loud. But there was nothing like that old stadium. Like that old stadium was the greatest.
Oh,
that was awesome.
The acoustics there were amazing. It was super loud.
Yeah, it was awesome. And then like the floor was sticky and smelled like beer and popcorn. I remember that. I remember that a lot. But yeah, just crazy stuff. I mean, no real crazy. I mean, just like hanging out with the Jordan kids, and all of a sudden Michael Jordan walks in and starts playing with you like a child. It's just like, yeah, it was cool. It was. But I didn't realize how cool it was when I got older. Because to us, it was just like, oh yeah, it's Michael Jordan, Dad's friend. Like. We were always told, our dad always like taught us not to, conditioned us not to be starstruck, be respectful, like be super respectful. Don't be like, hey, M, or hey. Like even if Mr. Jordan would allow it, my dad would never allow that line to be crossed.
Well, I think your dad instilled in you that you're getting to see the person. You're not getting to see the persona or the mirage of Michael Jordan. You get to see actual Michael Jordan as a father, as a friend, as a part of the community there. So you got to see a completely different side that most people don't get to see.
Yeah, I would say often as a kid I'd wonder why people were so like, I don't want to say afraid of him, but more like why, like he was a mean person. Now he was very determined to win, as you saw, but he was super nice, like to people. Obviously he would joke and rip on his friends, but he was like, he's a very loving, loyal, generous, guy. So he wasn't like, they call Scottie Pippen no tipping Pippen because he wouldn't tip, right? Like, but Michael's like very good.
So what was your last interaction with Michael?
Just text messages. When my father died, he left a message and said, your father I loved your dad. He was more than a friend. He was a brother. He even told me I loved him more than you guys did. And I said, yeah, probably for a certain period of time during our teenage years, you probably did.
Yeah.
He straight up, I love him more than you guys, talking about me and my family and my brothers, so like, he was dead serious about that. He loved my dad, and it meant a lot because he gave my dad, friendship, brotherhood, purpose, like it was a real friend. And my dad looked up to him as well, in their own ways, in their own rights on the court. Michael was an all-star. My dad, as a Chicago police officer, was an all-star, as were the rest of the guys on his team. So that, that game, so to speak, recognized and respected the game. Last interaction, just text. Like I didn't even bother texting him this whole week. Like I don't want to overstep anything, but just text messages saying, thank you, or even making jokes. I think the last text I sent was like, you created a monster. When my dad went all viral, he sent me the crying, laughing emoji. I was like, man, look what you did.
Look what you did, yeah.
Yeah.
So who was able to bring your dad into the atmosphere of working for the Bulls? How did that come about?
Yeah, so it was really my dad was a Chicago police officer. Some of the guys, they would always work part-time jobs. When you're a Chicago police officer, you always do something else when you're like on furlough, or you like firefighters do too, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of times it's security jobs. So my dad was working Chicago White Sox baseball security for a long time, and then he decided to go over to the Bulls via Clarence Travis and Gus Lett, and all those guys were just, it's like imagine you and your buddies are doing a job, and you all are like, hey, let's go work over here. And at the same time, Michael was in his first rookie year, second year, so it just happened. And Michael described it in the scenes yesterday. They just over time, they escorted him in, they talked to him, and they just got to know him, and over time, the relationship just blossomed differently with each of the security guards. I often say my dad was like a brother. Mm-hmm. Michael calls him a brother, like a little brother. Like they're always trying to, my dad was one of the youngest in that group, so he was always, prodding Michael and messing with him and trying to go against him in something. So that clip of him in the quarters was really a good capture. It captured a constant theme, whereas Gus was truly like a father figure,
Right.
So that was cool. See, one story that came out of it, I linked up my Uncle CT's son, Deron Travis, with the media person I'd been talking to. And one story I forgot about that I got reminded of was he was in a shooting contest. So Deron, the son of Clarence, mm-hmm. was in a contest for shooting. They do after the first or second quarter halftime show type thing. And Michael somehow got a hold of the security guards and said, I bet you all combined that Duran loses. And so he
Oh,
was, yeah. So just joking, and actually Duran made the shots and won. So they all had to collect. It was nothing major, but it was more like if Michael got wind that my uncle CT's son was in the contest, and he said, "I bet you he loses." So this was
wow.
Michael always. Just, I mean, that's like during the first quarter, like after the first quarter. You know what I mean? Like he
Yeah.
had time
Yeah,
to like.
yeah, pulling the, it's called rib, you put a
Yeah.
little rib to see, a
But
little
like
salt
during
on
the
it, yeah.
game,
Yeah.
during the game. So it's just funny that they have these little stories.
All right, so I don't want to take up too much of your time, and we'll talk
No,
soon
yeah,
again. But
totally.
just how would you want your dad to be remembered? We've seen the joking side. We know he was a police officer who's served for the city of Chicago and did very well for that. And then, was one of Michael's good friends. But your perspective, what do you want the people to know, and how do you want your dad to be remembered?
Yeah, I keep seeing stories about him from other people I didn't know about. And the one word that comes to mind is just a giver. Like he gave of himself to the city as a police officer. And as some people quote it as the real police, not just looking for a job,
Mm-hmm.
but he wanted to be engaged as a police officer, even if that meant his life. So that taking the most dangerous jobs, that sticks out. So a giver, someone who sacrifices and gives, strong values, and yeah, just generally a giver and a friend, and a good father. I told someone this, that he could be so hard on us because he would watch Michael and Tim Grover go through training, and I never understood. It was almost like, oh, that's why he would say that to us as kids, because he would watch
Mm-hmm.
the development of Michael becoming a winner, so he tried to filter that and bring it home to us, and we were just like, are you crazy, but he cared. It was because he cared. He wanted the best for us, and the older I got, the more I understood how much he loved us and cared for us kids. So he was devoted, and just a giver. Didn't want to wasn't in a drama. Just wanted to just was quick to forgive. So he was a good combination of being a giver and someone that would do his job as a police officer. Someone you wouldn't want to mess with, at the same time, somebody who's truly caring and loving and giving.
Awesome, Nico. Well, thank you for your time. We'll
Yeah.
chat soon. Again, thank you for doing this again.
Yeah.
And just listening about stories about your dad are just awesome.
Yeah. And all the best to you and yours. Hope everyone is okay.
Yeah, thank you so much. All right, take
You're
care.
welcome.
Bye bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
I want to give a big thank you to Nicholi Wozniak for speaking with us. This is Swazo at True Chicago Sports Fan, signing off.